Everyone, welcome to another video. So we have to talk about this because I've been getting a lot of people requesting me to cover this topic, and in fact in today's live stream I will be directly reacting to another content creator's video at the request of a viewer, and the topic we have to discuss is Genshin exclusivity. Now, to be more precise, is the fact that more and more characters in Genshin are arising as exclusive characters, meaning characters that are used in very niche teams that almost have a necessity to be paired with certain other characters or typings. Now, inherently, you guys might think this is a bad thing. You guys might feel like this is a money grab. Now, while I'm not denying that it's monetary driven, I don't want to just chalk it over as another lazy game design feature or direction that Hoyoverse is taking, because we have a couple things that they're doing here that pretty much is 100% money centered, but I don't actually think character exclusivity and uniqueness is solely money driven. Okay, and hear me out. If you can make it past the next 2 minutes, I think I can explain to you that it's almost necessary for Hoyoverse to do something like this, because if the other were to be true, or if there isn't this uniqueness to the characters that are being released, we would quickly end up in a scenario where most characters or most teams would just be blatant copies or rewrites of other teams. Now, think of characters like Bennett, Xingqiu. I think these are great examples because they're a staple in the game. Now, imagine if every character or every other character that came out was just as versatile and just as powerful as Bennett, Xingqiu, Xiangling, these amazing characters that we all love to use and play. That would be amazing, right? Like, all the 4 stars coming out would be just as powerful, just as useful in different categories. Now, if we take that and consolidate the characters then, because you really only need one Bennett. So meaning, let's say a character like Diona, she gives shielding, she gives healing, right? Why not make Diona also do what Shenhe does, right? Like buff cryo attackers, and then also let Diona's burst apply cryo like Rosaria. Then suddenly Diona rises to the level of someone like Bennett. But at the same time, do you see what this does is it takes away the role of Shenhe, it takes away the role of Rosaria, and even competes with someone like Ganyu, because Diona becomes such a complete character. Now, of course, you say, oh, but you gotta get it to C6, and she's a 4-star character. But Bennett is a 4-star character, and at C1, Bennett rivals some of the best healers in the game while also providing attack buffs to your team, right? You quickly start to see this issue where if you get characters that are non-exclusive and extremely powerful and versatile at the same time, you run out of options to make other characters. Now, yes, we're in the other side of the spectrum right now, saying like, oh, well, you know, being too exclusive, too unique, you have too many weak characters, and we only have 4 slots in a team, and can you really bring all these characters to get the best use out of them? Now, that's why we gotta strike the balance. Well, when I say we, I really mean Hoyoverse, because when they design these characters, they have to really think about team compositions. They can't end up making characters that are so damn unique for the rest of time, which then ends up in a scenario where you have 4 extremely unique characters that only work in one specific team, and outside of these teams, they're completely and utterly useless. We kind of have some of those characters, but not really if you want to be copium, right? Like, for example, Goro, for example, Nilou. These characters, some would argue, well, if you take Goro out of the mono Geo team that Ito is in, then doesn't he essentially become useless? Like, what are you going to really use him for? But there are other Geo teams you can make. There are other mono Geo teams you can play. It doesn't have to be Ito. We're borderlining on some levels of copium here, because we all know Goro was made for mono Geo Ito. But some would say, well, what about Ningguang? What about Noel? I can play him in those teams too. Well, sure, of course you can, right? Same thing with Nilou. Nilou is made to be played in Hydro, Dendro specific teams. A lot of people will say, but I can play her outside of those teams. She works just fine. Of course you can. So then we come at a crossroads, right? Like, what should Hoyoverse do? Should they ease off on the exclusivity and uniqueness of certain characters to benefit the overall gaming experience and mostly the low spender and free-to-play experience, so people can get low constellation 4 stars and still have them perform at extremely high efficiency? Or should we continue down this path of more exclusive characters in order to milk the longevity of their character designs? Because there's really only a finite number of things they can do with the game when it comes to these elemental teams, reactions, synergies, and whatnot. Sure, once in a while they can pull something right out of their rear end, like Super Bloom, Crazy Bloom, like what Nilou does. So a lot of people would be saying like, well, that's justification, right? Then with that, they can just make up anything they want as they go, so they can actually make characters more powerful and less unique and more versatile. Now, while that's true, you guys have to understand that every time they pull something like that, they have to reevaluate the game balance and how it interacts with the game, as well as the power scaling of that unit compared to other units. It's actually quite a fickle thing to balance around a very unique unit such as that. And one would think that, well, you got away from the uniqueness issue, right? But psych, gotcha, because that just makes it more unique. Look at Nilou. She's probably one of the most unique characters in the game. Just because they come up with something new to combat this issue, it doesn't mean they get away from it. A lot of the times they get right back to it, and that's uniqueness and exclusivity. You can't get away from it. However, I will say one thing, right? It's because of these characters being so unique and non-versatile that when we get a character like Nahida, we really appreciate just how good of a unit this is. And it sucks to say, but like, you know, first comes the bitter, then comes the sweet. There's a saying in Chinese, right? That like it truly is. If you don't know what it feels like to have these bad units, I'm saying bad, I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for it. I'm saying bad because in comparison to a character like Nahida, who is so versatile and just completely changes the game, and whatever team you put her on, it seems like they're benefiting immensely, right? It's like a universal character, all efficient character. And you compare her to someone like Sino, who barely functions in his best team. You quickly start to appreciate a character like Nahida a lot more. That's why these Archons, well, obviously it's mostly Archons that gets this kind of treatment, so Archons are so desired and sought after, and people are willing to save months and sometimes even a year just to pull these Archons and multiple copies and even their weapon at some point. It's not just because Nahida's cute or Raiden is pretty, it's really because they're high functioning characters, and people know whether you are a casual player or a hardcore player that pulling one of these characters is equivalent to pulling like an entire team of characters. And it hurts to say, but without the crappy in-between characters, it really makes it difficult to appreciate a character like Nahida. Now, you guys could also say, well, that's being very optimistic, whereas the pessimistic view is Hoyoverse make crappy units in between these Archons so they can sell these Archons as amazing units. And I'd say you're probably right as well, right? It's really dependent on how you look at this issue. But that's where I'm going to leave this video right now, because there's a lot more I want to say, but I don't want to overcrowd this video. If you want to hear more and even give your own input, make sure to comment down below. I likely will look at the comments of this video and respond to them in my live stream later today. I look forward to seeing everything you guys have to write. Now, just one more thing before I let you guys go. The Genshin 3.3 live stream is coming extremely soon, and I'm going to be live streaming that as well. So make sure to tune in to that when you have the chance. I'll see you guys on the live stream later today. Until then, urge you all to stay safe and peace. Bye.